Okay, right. This is our first lesson of the year 2021. I can feel this year. I'm sure you can feel the year is going to be a good year. Very nice feeling. It is very cold in Singapore and we love the weather. And also a bit wet, but we're staying at home, so it doesn't matter. And this sutta is a kind of a happy sutta. It's quite humorous. But there are lots of serious teachings here. And notice this sutta is from Digha Nikaya. It is D11. Okay, if you look at the top right hand corner, the title is Kevaddha Sutta. There is an alternative name, Kevaṭṭa Sutta. I'll explain later why there's two names. The Discourse to Kevaddha, D11. So D is Digha Nikaya. Digha Nikaya are the long suttas. So this is one of those long suttas where you have these very interesting stories. And in this case, it's a very humorous story about how this monk who can meditate is trying to find out this question that he has: where in the universe do the four elements cease without a trace? Normal matter is completely gone. So it goes to all the lower heavens to the highest heavens of Brahma. Okay, and none of the gods knew the answer. Okay, so let's find out what happens after that. So this is about when you're looking for answers to such questions, what's the best way? Where's the best way to find it? It's within yourself. Okay? I mean, next to going to the Buddha. So that's another story, another moral behind the story. The Buddha is there, should go to him. All right, so that's a bit of introduction. Let me now go on to tell you a bit about the name, okay, Kevaddha. Now, wait, let's look at the introduction first, then it's easier for you to remember what I'm going to say about the name. Okay, so let's go down, yes, to the translation itself. There are some notes there, please read up on your own. It kind of summarizes what I've said and also helps you with more details. There may be cross references there, and you need those notes, you can contact us at the Minding Center. We'll send it to you. Further down to the Sutta translation, you see another subtitle there near the bottom. I think about 10 pages down. I think. Yeah, some more. Ah, yes. Okay, here we are. Yes, very good. Okay. Right. The Kevaddha is the name used in the Pali Text Society edition. The Burmese and Sinhalese use Kevaṭṭa with a T dot. Okay, Kevaṭṭa means fisherman. So it's unlikely to be his name because it's supposed to be a well-to-do person. So we don't know what's the meaning of Kevaddha, but if you look at Addha, it has something to do with progress. It's more likely to be his name. So for that reason, I've chosen this name rather than Kevaṭṭa. Okay? But anyway, as long as you know this sutta has a name and you know which sutta you're referring to, that's the important thing, the teaching of the sutta. All right. Okay, let's look at the sutta itself. You can see brackets 211. The 211 refers to the Pali page in the Pali Text Society Pali edition. This is for people who know Pali to check, okay, the translation. And then you have the paragraph number 1. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was staying in Pavarika's mango grove near Nalanda. So the location is Nalanda, at that time a very busy city in the Buddha's time. No university yet, but it's a kind of trading place near the Bay of Bengal. Then Kevaddha, the house lord's son, there is the house lord's son, so he's quite a well-to-do young man, approached the Blessed One, saluted him, and sat down at one side. Sitting at one side, Kevaddha, the house lord's son, said, Bhante, this Nalanda is rich, prosperous, populous, and filled with people who have faith in the Blessed One. It would be good, Bhante, if the Blessed One were to instruct a monk to perform a psychic wonder, a kind of miraculous show of the superhuman state, okay, arising from deep meditation, so that Nalanda would grow even greater in faith in the Blessed One. So you have this very interesting suggestion by this man. He tells the Buddha, why don't you get a monk to perform, show some miracle, that we get more people, more followers, more people who have faith in the Buddha. Then the Buddha replies, okay, 1.3. Kevaddha, I do not teach to the monks the Dhamma, thus come, bhikshus, display a miracle to the white-clad lay people. Now the wording is important here. The Buddha says, the Buddha does not tell the monks, show miracles to lay people. Why lay people? Sometimes the word used is anupasampanna, those who are not ordained. There are rules. There's a story in the Vinaya where a certain monk actually perform some miracles to get a bowl down from a high pole, and then people applauded and so on, and he got this sandalwood bowl. Then when Buddha found out, says, "Oh, why do you do this? I mean, this showmanship is not meant what being a monk is about." So after that, the Buddha made a rule that monks should never make a show of this kind of power. Okay, and from then on, there's this rule. Especially, it should not be shown to lay people, because lay people will have a wrong understanding. And if you know a monk has got powers, and you go to him because of the powers, not because of the Dharma, and then you might say, "Oh, my teacher has got all these miraculous powers," and then you don't really practice. So it's not very helpful. So there is this lesson there. So this is what the Buddha replies to Kevaddha. Right? Then the thing is, Kevaddha is quite insistent. The second time he tells the Buddha, "Come on, teacher, why don't you allow this?" Again, the Buddha says the same thing, and then the third time, right? So there's always this kind of 3 times. So after the third time, of course, the Buddha will be very definite already. Either he does it or he doesn't. But in this case, he's going to explain to Kevaddha, and for our benefit, why we should not perform miracles, and what really should we be doing as Buddhists. Okay, so the teaching starts, section 3.2, the next page. Kevaddha, there are these 3 kinds of psychic wonders, or miracles, if you like, that I have declared, having directly known and realized them for myself. What are the 3? The miracle of psychic power, the miracle of thought reading, and the miracle of instruction. Actually, there are many miracles, but here the Buddha chose these 3, like by way of summarizing all these psychic wonders. Right? Then he explains them one by one. Section 4. What is meant by psychic wonder? And what, Kevaddha, is the wonder of psychic power? Iddhi patihariya. Okay, the name, the word for psychic power, psychic wonder is iddhi. Iddhi. Okay. Patihariya. This word literally means to make a show of, to display. Okay, so it's a display of psychic powers. So this is what the Buddha is against. That you just make a show of it, and people have wrong ideas about it. They will rather turn to the show rather than the actual teaching. So the showmanship, not really teaching Dharma. So here the Buddha says, okay, Kevaddha, you have these different kinds of powers. Number 1, having been one, he becomes many. Having been many, becomes one. Right? This is self-multiplication. He appears and vanishes. He goes unhindered through walls, through ramparts, through the mountain, as if through space. Dematerialization. Okay? He dives in and out of the earth as if it were water. This is done through the Kasina meditation, to water meditation. Now, what's interesting thing here is we have early Buddhism explaining how all these things are done. Then the next one, number 5, is very interesting. He walks on water. without sinking, as if it were earth. Now you hear this in other religions, people walking on water, but in Buddhism it is explained how. Here it is done through what's called the earth asanas. This meditator, he goes into kind of deep state and then he projects earth. So water or even air, that part that he directs his mind to becomes like earth, solid, so to speak, materialization, if you want to use the scientific word. So he's able to step on it. Then there are devas, who come down to earth when the Buddha was passing away, for example, and they're not able to stand on the ground because they have no form. So they have to get into this kind of meditative state and like project earth so that they can stand stably on the ground. So these are very interesting explanations through meditation about how all these amazing things happen, which one day maybe science will find out and explain to us in modern terms. Then number 6, he sitting cross-legged, he flies to the air like a winged bird, called this teleportation. Okay. With his hand, he touches and strokes even the sun and the moon, so mighty, so powerful. So of course, you go to deep meditation, you're able to, see this happening or show this as happening. And number 8 is astral travel. He has the power over his body up to as far as the Brahma world. Why Brahma world? Because Brahma world is just above the sense world. So this meditator is able to have this ability to go as far as the Brahma world. Okay, this is through attaining the 4th dhyana. So this is a collection of psychic powers generally put together. Okay, so the Buddha discourages this being used for show. All right. Then next, number 2, 4.2. So he says, why we shouldn't do this? He says there are people who have faith. Okay, they see the monks doing this. They say, wow, look at this monk. He can do all this. So this faithful Buddhist is amazed by all these miracles done by the monks. So he goes and tells someone else. But this second person has no faith. This second person is without faith, is section 5. Then he knows something else. He knows some kind of other form of miracle. And here the name is called Gandhari charm. Okay, this is 5.2. The name is given there, section 5.2 further down. So the Buddha says that there is this Gandhari charm, which people who know this, they can perform all these things. Now the problem is this, the Buddha just mentioned this name, but we do not know what it is. So you got to use your imagination a bit here. Here it's like a story, so it's okay for you to imagine. I mean, it's like, there was once I met this really nice man. We were talking about miracles, and then suddenly he said, so, I fly whenever I want to. Everyone looked at him and said, wow, this monk must have powers, I said, how do you do that, Bhante? Oh, I take a plane, he says. And I mean, that's true, is it? I mean, he does fly, So here, I mean, we can take this Gandhari charm to mean modern science, where you have this metal bird flying to the air. I mean, who would think of this in the Buddha's time, And then appearing and disappearing, you see that in Star Wars and Star Trek, teleportation, things like that. So what was really amazing in the Buddhist time, we today, we say, oh, we have some idea in our mind and say, yeah, it's possible, so what's the big deal, Then there is this example I want to give you. Let's say I'm sitting in front of you giving you a talk, and then suddenly I rose into the air and I sit mid-air and start talking to you. Now, how would you feel? If you start following me after that, you say, oh, this is amazing. Piya can teleport, it can rise to the air, and you come for my classes because I do that. I would have failed, So because you have come for the miracle, not for the teaching. So that is, I mean, we could do a trick. I mean, you have all these fantastic magicians, David Blaine and David Copperfield. They make things disappear. And then there are movies which explain how they do all these things. Whether these miracles are true or not, we cannot take them as standards of truth, because it doesn't really help us to be better persons. Maybe they're good as entertainment, yes, but that's about it as far as we are concerned. So this is the first one. So the Buddha says, because of this, I really don't like all these things. In fact, the Buddha says, if you look at just above brackets 2, the big brackets 2, he says, seeing this danger in the miracle of psychic power, Kevaddha, I am pained, ashamed, disgusted regarding the miracle of psychic power. These three words often is used as a kind of stock phrase, we say. Pain. So the Buddha doesn't like it. This is something he doesn't appreciate. A shame, a sense of why do we do this? We are better than this. And then disgusted idea of it doesn't really help. We should not be doing all these things. These are mainly words to show that the Buddha strongly disapproves of such practices. Okay, so that's the first one. Then the big number 2, round brackets 2, miracle of thought reading, section 6. And what Kevaddha is the miracle of thought reading. Okay, notice here the word is adesana patihariya. Okay, adesana, mind, thought reading. This is not mind reading. There is in the Buddhist list mind reading. That is something else. We'll come to that in a while. And we'll find out the difference later. Here, the Buddha is simply saying thought reading. Here, Kevaddha, among reads the mind, the mental state, the thought, the pondering of other beings and other individuals. Thus, such is your mind. This is your mind. This is your thought. Okay, so here, in modern lingo, we call this mentalism. Some of you may have seen a TV series called The Mentalist. Right? So that's what this is about, thought reading, mentalism. So this is a skill we can learn. It's nothing miraculous about this. So here the Buddha says, all right, so here is someone with faith, a Buddhist who has faith, and he sees this monk who's able to read someone else's mind. Now, we're not sure whether he's a mentalist or not a mentalist, whether he's a deep meditator who can actually read someone's mind or not, doesn't matter. But he's able to do that, and this person with faith says, wow, look at this monk, he can do this mind reading, And he tells someone else, but this friend of his has got no faith. Then this friend of his says, oh, I know this. I know there's someone who can do all this, and he practices what's called the Manika charm, the jewel charm, 7.2. So what the Buddha is saying here is, all this can be done. Of course, today we know, we call it mentalism. So imagine someone who knows what mentalism is and say, okay, what's the big deal? Your monk can read minds, I can do it too. Then you find it's not very useful to talk that way. And you also bring down the value of Buddhism, in other words. So the Buddha said, okay, I don't promote this too at all. We should not show the public this too. And it's not a good way to promote Buddhism. So it's telling Kevaddha, this is not a good idea. The best one, okay, 7 point, that is number 8, rather, section 8. The best is the miracle of instruction, right? And what Kevaddha is the miracle of instruction, or the miracle of education, if you like. Anusasani patihariya. Anusasani, it means teaching, instruction. Right? The word sasana is, you find part of the word is same as sasana, refers to the Buddha's teaching. So here is teaching. Right now I'm teaching you. You teach someone to answer some Dharma questions. Here Kevaddha, a monk gives instruction in this way. You should think in this way, not in that way. Direct your attention to this, not to that. Let go of this, dwell cultivating that. This Kevaddha is called the miracle of instruction. So to instruct someone means to help this person deal with difficulties on a mental level, teaching Dharma and so on. So the Buddha said this is what we should be doing. Okay. Of course, at this point, the Buddha only says these are the 3 things. Right? Then the Buddha is going to give a long discourse. Remember, this is the Digha Nikaya, long discourse. So it's going to give a long discourse from section 9, the next section, right up to section 50 something, 54, I think. And these are the different things that we can learn from the Buddha. So the Buddha said, this is what we should be teaching. This is the miracle of education. It's just like you coming for sutta lessons, then you begin to understand, say, wow, this teaching is really wonderful. I understand it better now, and I know myself better now. I can meditate better. That's the idea. Now, the Buddha begins by teaching what he means by this. Now, he doesn't exactly tell Kevaddha these are the things, but he goes into it straight away, and then at the end of it, he says, this is the miracle of instruction. So he begins what is called the fruits of recluseship. This is a common set of, a very long set of teachings, which shows how someone hearing the Buddha arising in the world, that is section 9, he hears about the Buddha, hears about the Buddha's teaching, then he decides to renounce the world because he wants to be really happy, and he finds it very difficult to do this in the world, which is very crowded and very distracting. So he becomes a monk, and he renounces the world. He follows the precepts. So I've summarized these very famous passages for you up to section 12. Okay. Now, so here you see the word the moralities, center of the page, the moralities, section 12 to 44. So here, moralities here are the ancient rules. These rules are there even before the Vinaya. There's a long list of rules. There's no time to go through all of them, but I'll show you some samples in a moment. These are the things that those early monks, the good monks, do not do. The moralities, the precepts, if you like, right? But first, the Buddha begins with the rules that we are familiar. And this whole section is called perfection of moral virtue. So what's happening here is the Buddha begins by talking about the three trainings. And the first is training in moral virtue, the precepts. Okay. Then second one is training, second part is training in mental concentration, meditation, and the third one is wisdom. All right, so this is the pattern we're going to go through. So now first part is moral virtue, precepts, section 12. And now Kevaddha, what and how Kevaddha is among accomplishing moral virtue? How does he keep the precepts? Okay, here you're familiar with this thing, so let me summarize. So number one, you can see the underlying words, destruction of life. Here, the monk abandons destruction of life, killing. He abandons taking what is not given. He abandons celibacy. Okay, this third one is especially for the monks. He doesn't have sex at all because he's goes into deep meditation and gives him deep joy, and he gives up bodily pleasures because of the deep mental joy. That is why monks are celibate. So these are three precepts of the body. Okay, not killing, not stealing, and keeping away from sex totally. This is for the monks. Then the second part, section 13, are the precepts of speech. So here, you're already familiar with this. Having abandoned false speech, he abstains from false speech. He speaks the truth. The truth is his bond, trustworthy, reliable, no deceiver of the world, right? So it's very beautifully defined here, right? And then he avoids divisive speech. He doesn't tell stories, carry tales between groups, and then lead them to quarrel, right? So this is his moral virtue. Next page. He doesn't practice abusive speech. He speaks gently, it's not harsh. His voice is pleasant, friendly, and he uses kind words. And then 7, this is the fourth right speech. He avoids frivolous talk, no small talk. Now, so he, as a monk, he talks things which are useful. Okay, so this is what the monk does, okay, in terms of his moral training. Then there are lots of other rules coming now. So the next one is 13.2. He abstains from damaging seeds and plant life. In ancient India, agriculture is very important. So the monk is very careful never to, for example, step on green plants, never to throw oily water from the bowl onto plants, or throw any kind of rubbish onto growing plants. Then next section, you have 9 to 13 are the basic precepts. Even the novices keep, like meals, eating 1 meal a day, and in the forenoon. And then but rule number 10, abstaining from dancing, singing, music, and watching shows, and so on. Now, what's interesting is all these rules here will be expanded in some detail in the next section. This section is called the small moralities, lesser moralities. Next section called middle morality. We'll come to that in a while. Now, in the next section, under heading general, you see here, monks do not behave like lay people. Okay, number 14, for example, he abstains from accepting uncooked grain, raw meat, women and girls, male and female slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses, and mares. Okay, all right. Why is this? Uncooked grain, you have to store this. And when you store this, you know very well, even when you buy those nicely packed, vacuum packed rice from the supermarket, afterward there are bugs in there, right? And I mean, as laymen, we already feel quite bad. So, wow, look at the bugs, and I hope I don't kill them. So imagine this happens in a monastery that's got lots of stored food, and rats start coming and so on. So either you get rid of the rats or they bring disease, things like that. So this can be really problematic for the renunciants, for the monks. And then the monk will be on the move, right? So if you store things, you get stuck in one place. The rule number 10 is about singing, dancing, and so on. This is enjoying your time as a layperson, so it's quite understandable. Then 12, abstaining from high and luxurious bed and seats. One reason they should be avoided is it makes you kind of want to sleep longer, and they're quite big and cumbersome. The monk's life is very simple. He brings his mat or he uses his robe, he spreads it on the floor, and he sleeps there. I remember when I was in Thailand as a monk, when I first went there, the floor in the monasteries were made of wood, and it's quite nice to sleep on these wooden floors, and they are kept very clean. You put a mat over it and you lie down on it, and you get up early. And then 13, he abstains from accepting gold and silver. There are some people who argue, say, oh, monks are not supposed to accept gold and silver, that's all, but they can accept money. But that's not true, because if you go further down, if you look at number 17, rule 17, he abstains from buying and selling. So there you are, okay? So you find this number 17 and number 13, they connect together. The monk does not neither buy nor sell. It has no dealing with money, in other words. So you have all these kinds of rules, basically what the monk should not do. And look at the next one, 19, he abstains from bribery, deception, and fraud. That is interesting, because the fact that the Buddha mentions this means that there were religious people those days. And I can tell you, the religious people in India today, they call the sadhus. It is not the Buddhist sadhu. It is an Indian word meaning this holy man who want an easy life, so just kind of wear something yellow and keep their hair long, don't wash themselves, and they're regarded as holy. And they get free meals. You can just go to some busy street and wait certain times. People bring the pious will bring food for them. And sometimes there's one picture of this sadhu seeming to float in the air, and his people standing beside him. The reality is they have made this kind of like an iron, a metal stand, which is the stand, the pole is hidden by his long rope. So he appears to be floating in the air, but it's just a false display to attract the piety of the people. Okay, so you have people, things like that done even today. So can you imagine what the Buddha is dealing with here? So the Buddha is saying, don't do this, don't cheat people, don't be a fraud, right? And number 20, the Buddhists say, well, if this monk abstains from wounding, executing, imprisoning, highway robbery, plundering, and violence. Oh, these are really nasty things, which definitely a monk should not do this. And something is wrong with us. This. So the rule goes on, right? Now the next section is the medium section on moral virtue, where each of the rules that I read to you earlier are mentioned in detail. Now I can't go into all of them because it's not enough time. Let's just look at one of them, okay? Look at, say, watching shows, all right, number 16. Look at the wording here, section 16. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins living off food given in faith are bent on watching shows. So here the Buddha said there are some of these holy men, they are given food. They don't do anything, right? They're given food by the devotees, but they watch shows. What kind of shows? Dancing, singing, music, plays, ballad recitation, hand clapping, cymbals and drums, painted scenes, acrobatic and conjuring tricks, elephant fights, horse fights, buffalo fights, bull fights, goat fights, ram fights, cock fights, quail fights, fighting with staves. Staves are poles. Boxing, wrestling, war games, roll calls, battle arrays, and troop movements. So these are the things that actually happen in the Buddhist times. The Buddha say a true monk doesn't watch any of these shows. He'd be meditating, for example. But there's something else. Next section 17. I like this part because this shows what kind of games that existed in those days and which the good monk would not play anyway. So my suggestion is, if to follow this through, I think as a child you better have some time with these games, and after that you don't have to play them as a monk. All right. So here, 17. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins living off food given in faith are bent on heedless and idle games such as these: 8-row chess, 10-row chess, chess in the air. So we know this chess existed in the Buddha's time. In fact, chess came from India. It's called Chatur. Chatur in Malay. Chatur means four. The four army, by the way. Chatura. Chatur means four. Then you have hopscotch, spillikins or jet straw, dice, stick games, hand pictures, ball games or marbles, blowing through toy pipes or playing with whistling games with folded leaves, playing with toy plows, turning somersaults or acrobatics, playing with toy windmills, toy measures, toy chariots, toy bows, guessing letters drawn in the air or on one's back, guessing thoughts, mimicking deformities. So these are games children play, we remember. Games such as this. So here we have a good idea that, India in the Buddhist times, lots of games. And a good monk wouldn't be wasting his time doing all this. So you can see in this section, the moralities are lots of what's social information, social history of India, and the monks are supposed to avoid this. So, as I said, this describe in detail some of what is mentioned briefly. I'll just stick to the headings. Section 19 is on sense, cosmetic, and means of beautification. Things listed there. Then 20 are low chatter. These are gossip, frivolous talk. And then 21 are debates, quarreling and debating. Number 22, relaying messages and carrying errands. Monks are not supposed to run errands. So never tell a monk, say, oh, when you come back from Sri Lanka or Thailand, can you bring me this, bring me that? It's not proper for monks to do that. They're supposed to be, just be at peace with themselves, traveling. And 23 is a quite general one, to avoid deceitful pretension, not to be, they should be natural, they should be kind and compassionate. All right, so that's the middling section. Now we come to the great section, moral virtue, a great section on moral virtue, section 24. This section is mostly about livelihood, the kind of livelihood that monks should not follow. So these are all, the headings are wrong livelihood. For example, you look at 24, whereas some recluses and Brahmins living off food given in faith maintain themselves, not just maintain themselves, support themselves by wrong livelihood through the low arts, or sometimes called animal arts, such as reading marks on the limbs of palmistry, soul reading, omens and signs, interpreting celestial events like through lightning, falling stars, and comets, interpreting dreams, basically fortune telling, including geomancy, by the way. If you look further down a few lines, you can see starting with determining whether the site for a proposed house or garden is propitious, good fortune, or not. This is geomancy. So monks should not do that, and so on. So there's a whole list of things here, like chanting for protection. So this is quite interesting, right? Monks are not supposed to do all this. They're supposed to practice meditation and avoid all this long list of wrong livelihood. There's a whole page of it. For example, making political predictions, that is number 26, all right? Who will win, who will attack, which, and so on. And then astrology, 27, section 27 is on astrology, and so on, all right? So you can read this on your own time. So the Buddha basically is saying, these monks, those are good monks, they would not follow all these things. And then section 30, they won't perform all kinds of magical rituals, consecrating rituals, and they wouldn't be giving medicines, behaving like doctors, things like that, right? They're not supposed to do all that. These are all in the Vinaya rules anyway, all right? So basically the monks will practice the precepts and be blameless in that way, all right? And that's the way the monks should do. So this is the precept section is finished with section 31. Then this is to prepare the monks for the second training on mental cultivation. So this is next page, section B, mental cultivation. Next page, please. All right. Okay, here we are, sense restraint. So this is his next training, the miracle of training, instructions. He guards the senses, all right, 32. And how Kevaddha does a monk guard the sense doors? One, here Kevaddha, when a monk sees form with the eye, he grasps neither its sign nor its detail. All right. This is the important, the key word here. The Buddha is saying that to be mindful, when you see something, the moment you find there's some attraction there, which you should not be attracted to, you're meditating, you immediately turn your mind away, right? First is the sign. Just when you go shopping, what is a sign? A bright light, a color. And then you say, wow, what's that? Then you look at the details. These are the sign and the details. That's how you get drawn. And then desire arises. So this with the eye. So straight away you turn the mind away, all right? Same thing with the ear, applicable to sound. You hear sound and you know, oh, this is not something good, it will make you unhappy. So turn away from it. And then smell, taste, touch, the same way. The moment you notice the sign of something negative, do not go into the details, turn away. So this is called sense restraint. I'm only giving a summary. So if this interests you, make a mark there, or dog ear, if you don't have a pencil or pen, then read this when you're free, okay? So this is to restrain the senses so that, you know, you can let go of distraction and so on, and mindfulness and clear knowing will arise, which is the next section, 33. And how Kevaddha is a monk possessed of mindfulness and clear knowing. Here Kevaddha, in going forward or back, the monk clearly knows what he's doing. In looking forward or back, bending or stretching, in carrying his upper robe, outer robe and bowl, eating, drinking, chewing, tasting, right? So the monk is mindful in all these actions. Number 6, even in voiding and peeing, even in the toilets, mindful. Then number 7, walking, in standing and sitting, in being asleep and being awake, in talking, in remaining silent, he clearly knows what he's doing. Of course, there's a problem here about how do you become so mindful when you're sleeping, and this is more to do with the meditators who who are very mindful of themselves. So when they sleep, they're mindful and they're very calm. Right? Then in the next section, contentment. So a monk who practices in this way, he'll be happy and contented. This verse is very beautiful. Who is a contented monk? Section 34. And how Kevaddha is a monk content? Here Kevaddha, he is content with robes to protect his body and with alms food to sustain his belly. And wherever he goes, he sets out only with these with him. So the monk only takes his bowl and robe when he travels. The strange thing is you don't see some of these city monks doing this. They don't carry their bowls anymore. No? I don't see Sinhalese monks carrying their bowls nowadays. Okay, so that's one of those things we need to note, and we have to ask them why. Here, Kevaddha, just as a bird wherever it goes flies with its wings as its only burden, so too Kevaddha is he content with robes to protect his belly and with alms food to sustain. With robes to protect his body and with alms food to sustain his belly. And wherever he goes, he takes only these with him. So this way he's content. Okay, now we're approaching nearer to meditation. So now that the monk is content, his next training is he learns to push away the mental hindrances. He's going to meditate. Section 35. Possessing this noble aggregate of moral virtue, this noble restraint over the sense faculties, this noble mindfulness and clear knowing and noble contentment, all these have been mentioned earlier. He seeks out a secluded dwelling, the forest, the foot of a tree, a mountain, a glen, a hillside cave, a charnel ground, a jungle grove, the open air, a heap of straw. Now this is the normal list in the suttas for places that are conducive or suitable for meditation. Nature. No? So basically, it's a secluded spot, quiet, peaceful, not too many people there. Returning from his alms round after his meal, he sits down, crosses his legs, holds his body erect, and establishes mindfulness before him. So this is the standard instructions for how to meditate. And the next section is overcoming those things which distract us. Brackets 1, section 36, brackets 1, abandoning covetousness, meaning desire, with regard to the world. Here, world refers to what the senses bring us, the various 5 senses. He dwells with a mind devoid of covetousness. He cleanses his mind of covetousness. So let go of any kind of desiring this and that. And number 2, overcome is opposite. The opposite of desire is ill will, anger. Overcome that. The wordings are the same, right? And so 1 and 2, they are a pair. 3 and 4 are another pair. If you have a lot of desire and you can't get things, you get upset. You can't go together. Then when you have desire, you get upset, then you become tired. Sloth and torpor arise in you. You get sleepy, you get tired, and you become restless. Okay, now that's the 4th, it's called hindrance, right? Restlessness and worry. After a while, you become uneasy, and you start thinking, am I doing it right? Why am I not doing it right? And so on. And finally, doubt would arise. So these are the 5 mental hindrances which we need to overcome. Then the sutta gives similes, a parable for each of these. When we are caught with covetousness, with desire, it's like taking a loan, 37. It's like taking a loan. Here the man, suppose Kevaddha, that a man taking a loan invests it in his business. And his business succeeds, and he repays his old debts, and there is surplus and for his wife and ornaments. So the thought occurs to him and say, okay, now I have enough money, I'm very happy, my business successful, I can buy things and make my family happy. This is where the person has overcome this hindrance of desire. And then Next is this ill will, anger. When you have overcome ill will and anger in meditation, say like through using loving kindness, it's like someone who was sick before and then you are cured of your sickness and you are recovered from the sickness. Feel very good if you're happy, if you're healthy. And that is like overcoming ill will. The third one is sloth and torpor, this tiredness, sleepiness, laziness. It's like someone bound in prison. Okay, when you are caught with this feeling of sloth and torpor, it's like being caught in prison, walled up. But once you overcome this, it's like you are free. You come out of your prison, you're very happy. And then the next hindrance is number 5, the last one. There's doubt. Oh, there's one more. Sorry, the slave. Restlessness and worry is like being a slave. You're enslaved, and then you have to do the bidding of others, of the master. So once you overcome restlessness and worry, you are free from slavery. You feel really good and emancipated. And the last one, doubt, is like a traveler. Let's say there's this merchant in ancient India. They have this caravan. They carry valuable things across the Silk Road and so on, money and goods. Of course, they're very worried during the journey. Anytime there might be marauders or pirates. Then they reach the city, they're very happy, they can do their business. So that's when hindrance of doubt is overcome. This businessman has arrived successfully in the city and he's safe. So with that, he's able to go into meditation, which is the next section. So here we will. Right. So now this is a very long sutta, so I'm kind of introducing to you the main sections, highlighting certain things, and I invite you to read the details when they interest you. So now that the monk is ready overcoming the mental hindrances, he goes to the 4 jhanas. In simple jhanas are where we, in meditation, we transcend the limitation of the body and enjoy pure mind. That's one way of putting it. There are 4 form jhanas, meaning you you let go of your body, you free yourself from your body, and you experience this mind in a subtle form. And in the first jhana, the mind is very subtle. Only a little bit of thoughts are left. Okay, so this is like the parable given here, section 46, is a bathman apprentice. He makes this soap for the person, and we use this like a bubble bath, and you feel really refreshing, the kind of feeling. So this is an idea of how this first jhana meditator feels. So notice here, now the Buddha says, just above the second dhyana, this too, Kevaddha, is called the miracle of instruction, the ability to go into meditation. The second dhyana is where all remnants of thoughts are gone. The mind is pure joy. There is this very powerful, strong joy called piti. Okay, piti, or what do you call this? Zest, if you like. And then there is sukha, this gentle kind of joy. So this is the second one. And here the parable for section 48, it's like being in a lake. And in this lake, there is water, beautiful, cool water, spring water welling up from the bottom. That kind of feeling, okay? Very relaxing, very wonderful feeling. And this is a miracle of instruction. The third dhyana is when this very exciting joy dies down and the joy becomes more peaceful. There is only sukha. And this is the third dhyana. And this compared to section 50 like a lotus. This lotus is deep in the water, very refreshing, and it's just going to come out. All right. And what I like is the fourth one. The fourth dhyana is when there's only equanimity, where the mind is totally peaceful, very calm, very joyful. And the parable here is like a man all covered in white from head to toe, and is sitting very calmly. Now, I didn't know what this means until one day I actually saw someone wearing white, this dhoti, this Indian cloth, you know. And what I saw was amazing. This man actually seems to dazzle. This white all over, seems to dazzle. So you have this kind of brightness. So this is the fourth dhyana. So from this dhyana, especially the fourth dhyana, comes the various knowledges, the higher knowledges. In this sutta, there are 8 of them, 8 super knowledges. The next one, the first of this is section 52, is simply called knowledge and vision. From this, the sutta here, it refers to kind of in-depth knowledge about ourselves. We begin to see what kind of being, what we are. Section 53 gives you an idea. Kevaddha, just as if there were a beautiful beryl gem of the purest water of natural beauty, 8-faceted, well-polished, clear, limpid, consummate in all its aspects. And going through the middle of it was a blue, yellow, red, white, or brown thread. And a man with good eyesight would notice all this. So in other words, this thread is like consciousness inside us. And we are this kind of body. We see our being in that sense, deep in meditation. That's the best I can put into words here. Okay. Then the next one, section 54, and section, the one just before that, it should be 53.4, not 0.2, correct that. Huh? This is where this meditator, having attained the fourth dhyana, is able to create a mind-made body. Just like we pull out a reed from its sheath. It is a kind of a grass that you can pull out the reed from the sheath. Or an easier parable is the snake and its slough. The snake's skin will come off and it looks long like a snake. So here the Buddha is saying that this deep meditator is able to project his mindful, his consciousness, and is able to travel. Okay, it's astral travel, and that's how the Buddha is able to like move around different places and teach people who are far away. And you know, there are records of such teachings where the Buddha sometimes sends a bright light. Okay, so this is how he does it when he appears to others in his astral form. Okay, so this also is called a miracle of instructions. Then comes the psychic powers. Through the fourth jhana, the monks are able to cultivate psychic powers. And here psychic powers are mentioned again. Remember earlier on the Buddha says that we should not display all this. What the Buddha is again is displaying psychic powers for his own sake. Here the psychic powers arose through meditation, and the monk doesn't need to perform it. Or if he does it on his own, so to speak, without making a show of it. Then there is a divine ear. Divine ear here able to hear sounds from far away. Okay, a good kind of hearing. Like section 58 is like a man traveling along a highway is able to hear all kind of sounds. Okay, and then number 5 is mind reading. Okay, here is not thought readings. Mind reading, Cetopariya Jnana, refers to the ability of knowing our own mind or the mind of another person who's meditating, whether they have any hindrances like lust, aversion, and so on. So this is actually it's a good ability to read our own mind and read the minds of others to help them overcome the hindrances in the meditation. So here, section 60, the Buddha says this like a young man or woman fond of ornaments, and then he looks in the water or mirror and says, okay, is he nicely done up or not with the makeup? So also the meditator examines himself and says, do I have all this? Do I have all these hindrances? Do I have lust? Do I have a hatred? And so on. And this mind reading helps us to overcome distractions in that way, overcome the hindrances. Then the next one, knowledge number 6, is the knowledge of the recollection of past lives, which the Buddha, of course, has too. And the parable here is like a person who goes from village to village and then returns to his own village. is able to know past lives. Okay, so this is another miracle of instruction. This is useful so we know why we are suffering now and why people are the way they are. And then number 7 is the knowledge of other people, right? This number 6 is your own understanding of your own rebirth, your past lives. Number 7 is of other people. So here is also called the divine eye. And the parable here is like you're in a tower and you see down on the ground, you can see this big house and in the central square, the people going in and out. So this is about rebirth. The house represents the birth, okay? So these are kind of quick summary for you to know where the sources are so that you can look them up in your own time. Finally, the most important of the knowledge number 8, the knowledge of the destruction of the mental influxes. Influxes are those defilements like desire, existence, views, ignorance flowing through our senses and polluting our mind. All these are overcome, and there is this understanding of the Four Noble Truths. And this is the knowledge of the Arahat. This is the most important of it all. And here the parable is in section 66. Kevaddha, just as if there were a pool of water in a mountain glen, clear, limpid, unsullied, and a man with good eyesight standing on the bank could see shells, gravel, and pebbles, and also shoals of fish swimming about and resting. And then he said, wow, it's a beautiful pool. So this Arahat is able to see his own mind, understand himself, and is liberated, no more suffering. So this is, of course, the highest of the instruction, miracle of instruction. So here the Buddha finishes giving his long list of wonderful teachings that he can give, which constitute the miracle of instruction. Now comes my favorite part, where now he tells a story of a monk, okay, who wants to find out where the 4 elements disappear without a trace. Let's find out why the Buddha tells a story. Section 67.2. 67.2. Once Kevaddha, in this very community of monks, this thought occurred to a certain monk. Where do these 4 great elements or primary elements, earth, water, fire, wind, cease without a trace? Then Kevaddha, that monk, attained to such a state of mental concentration that the way leading to the devas appeared before him. Basically, he's able to teleport himself. Right? So using all those things the Buddha told earlier, he said, okay, there is this monk who has this power. So with his meditative power, he goes to all the levels of the heavens. And you see the levels in the very last page of these notes, okay, the 31 planes. So he goes from earth, he goes to the nearest level of the earthbound heaven, that is the heaven of the 4 great kings. He goes to them and asks them, he goes to the retinue of the 4 great kings, the minor gods. I said, tell me, where do the 4 elements disappear without a trace? So he thinks, wow, these gods must be really wise. But then the gods say, no, we do not know. Why don't you go to our leader, the 4 great kings? But they also say, we do not know these things, because they are gods of the sense world, enjoying long holidays, if you like, from earth. Then they say, why don't you go up to the next level, to the heaven of the 33? They probably will tell you, so he goes up there to heaven of 33 again, those gods that we don't know. But then you go to Sakra, so they say, go to our leader. Sakra will say, no, I don't know. I don't know what's the answer to this. Then Sakra says, go up, go higher to the Yama Devas, next level. And then the Yama Devas say, why don't you see our leader? Our leader is Yama, go and ask him. And they say, no, then you go to the higher level, Tusita heavens. And the leader there is called Santusita. He also doesn't know. And he says, go higher up, go to the Nimanarati Devas. Now, these are the gods who are really powerful. They can create things, whatever they like, here meaning even create new worlds. And they also do not know. And they say, go to our leader. Our leader is called Sunimitta. And Sunimitta also doesn't know. It says, go up higher, go to the higher level, the Paranimitta Vasavati Devas. These gods are so powerful, they don't have to create. They order others to create for them. And those gods also do not know. The answer is, say, go to our leader, Vasavati. And Vasavati himself does not know. Now, there's something interesting here, by the way. There is another Deva in this region called Vasavati. And this Vasavati is Mara himself, by the way. So according to one story, Mara actually has his domain in one of these higher heavens, but this is still in a sense world. So Vasavati says, I do not know the answer. Why don't you go to the next level? Now the next level is out of the sense world. It is the first jhana world of Brahmas. These are the high gods, the big gods who are worshipped even in the Buddha's time as creator. So this is the real fun part. So this monk goes up to Brahma's retinue first, to the minor gods who serve Brahma. Brahma, we can look at him as a capital G god, if you like, as a modern equivalent. So Brahma's retinue say, why don't you go and see great Brahma himself and ask him? He should know. Then the monk asks, where is this great Brahma? Then the Brahma's retinue, you can think of them as the angels, they do not know. They say, oh, Brahma will come when he likes, right? So, so when it's ready, he will just appear like that. So look at 80.4. But where awuso is a friendly term for addressing others who are like more or less equal. So here the monk is addressing the Brahma's retinue, 80.4. But where awuso is the great Brahma now. Bhikshu, we do not know where great Brahma is, know how great Brahma is, know from where he will come. But when signs appear, lights issue forth, and a radiance appear, great Brahma will appear. For these are the signs of great Brahma's appearance. All right. So this monk waited in the Brahma heaven. Then 81, it was not long, Kevaddha, before great Brahma appeared. Then the monk Kevaddha approached great Brahma and said, Awuso, where do these four great elements, earth, water, fire, wind, cease without a trace? When this was said, Kevaddha, great Brahma said to the monk, I, Bhikshu, am Brahma, the great Brahma, the conqueror, the unconquered, the all-knowing, the all-powerful, the Lord God, the maker, the creator, the chief, the ordainer, the almighty, the father of all that are and that will be. Right? So here Brahma is avoiding the answer. He's giving his name card. And for the second time, the monk asks the same question. Mahabrahma. Again, Mahabrahma gives his titles, long list of titles, to impress the monk. Now, then the third time, the monk insists, you have to answer me. Right? This time, Brahma is caught. Traditionally, we do not go beyond the third time of avoiding answers. So this is the part I really like in this story. It's really funny. 83.2. Then Kevaddha, great Brahma, taking the monk by the arm and leading him off to one side, said to him, these gods of the Brahma's retinue believe there's nothing that great Brahma does not know. There's nothing that the great Brahma does not see. There is nothing that great Brahma is unaware of. There's nothing that great Brahma has not realized. That is why I did not say in their presence that I too do not know where the four great elements, earth, water, fire, wind, cease without a trace. You have thus acted wrongly and incorrectly in bypassing the Blessed One, in going in search of an answer to this question elsewhere. Go right back to the Blessed One, to the Buddha, and ask him this question. However he answered it, you should bear it in mind. So it says, go to the Buddha. He's the one. There's only one who knows the answer anyway. So then Kevaddha, just as if a strong man were to stretch his flexed arm or to flex his, the strong man were to stretch his flexed arm or were to flex his stretched arm. In other words, just bend his arm. The monk disappeared from the Brahma world and immediately appeared before me. Remember, the Buddha is telling these stories. The Buddha says he appears before me. Having bowed down to me, he sat down at one side. Sitting there at one side, he said to me, Bhante, where do the four elements, earth, water, fire, wind, cease without a trace? So finally, he came to the right person, this monk. Now, the Buddha is not going to let him off that easy. No? The Buddha is going to give another parable. All right, this parable is very famous. It's called the land-sighting bird, and it's kind of the end of the sutta. So, 85, the story starts. Once bhikshu, some seafaring monks took a land-sighting bird and set sail in their ship. When they could not see the shore, they released the land-sighting bird. If it flew to the east, the south, the west, the north, straight up, and to all the intermediate points of the quarters. If it saw land in any direction, it flew there. If it did not see land anywhere, it returned right back to the ship. And that's why it's called land-sighting bird. And if it can't find land, it comes back to the ship. All right. So if the bird finds land, it will fly in the direction, then the ship will follow the bird's direction. So the Buddha now advised this monk, he says, you have put the question wrongly. This is the way you should phrase the question. 85.3. 85.3. Where do earth, water, fire, wind find no footing? Where long and short, small and great, fair and foul, where name and form totally cease without a trace. Answer. It is next verse down. It is here that earth, water, fire, and wind find no footing. Here long and short, small and great, fair and foul. Here name and form cease without trace. With consciousness cessation, this stops here. Now, even the Buddha's answer is not direct for this monk. I'm sure after this there are other teachings. Here, where consciousness ceases, that is nirvana, in other words. So this is the Buddha's way of saying the answer is in nirvana, because this monk already know more or less in theory what nirvana is. So the Buddha is describing what nirvana is in our terms, that is when consciousness does not arise anymore. So when consciousness does not arise anymore, there's no more rebirth. When there's no rebirth, the four elements do not arise. And finally, the Buddha has finished his long lecture to Kevaddha. Kevaddha is happy and he leaves. So the sutta ends here. Finally, very long sutta. Yeah? So I hope you have enjoyed this very long sutta. There are interesting parts. Read on your own again. These long suttas are meant to be read and reread. There are lots of notes here. So take your time to study this on your own. Okay, we go to question time now.
Okay, thank you, Piya Tan, for explaining the sutta. Today we have about 90 participants. It's a very good start for 2021 for very first class. Thank you all for coming back and welcome all new members. We now open our floor to question and answer. Please raise your hand to ask question or you can type in the chat box. I will pass the Q&A session to Sister Isim now. Sister Isim, over to you.
Thank you, Sister Wendy. Good evening, brothers and sisters in the Dharma. Let me read out the first question from Theo SF. Brother Piya, what does it mean by Dharma which is good in its beginning, good in its middle, and good in its end,
Okay.
both in the spirit and in the letter?
Okay, very good. So you did read all the suttas, yeah? All right, the first three, good in the beginning, middle, and end, refers to the three trainings. The Buddha's teaching is good in the beginning because it talks about moral virtue, which makes our body and speech at peace with ourselves. The good in the middle because it talks about mental training, mental cultivation. Our minds are trained and refined and joyful, so it is good. And good in the end is because the third training is wisdom. This wisdom brings us a clear understanding of what we are, what life is, and it leads us on to awakening, to liberation. So good in the middle, good in the beginning, good in the end, in terms of the three trainings. In the letter and the spirit, that means if you look at the Pali, that's the letter, the word of the teaching, it is beautiful and it's also deep, right? And there's a way of chanting it, so the Buddha's teaching can be remembered for 2,500 years. Isn't that amazing? So in other words, the Pali is able to preserve the teaching in such a way that you can, if you study properly, you can get the sense of it as the Buddha intended in the first place. It's possible, right? But if we do it in English, we can't, because English is a living language and the meanings change about over time. So the Pali is called a scriptural language. It's not a dead language. We can't say it's a dead language because we are still using it, right? So we call it a scriptural language. So that is the word. It is beautiful in the word and beautiful in the spirit. We have to interpret, we have to tease out the meaning, we have to understand what are the words trying to tell us, and that's the real beauty of it. If you like, you can say, I like to use the two terms, truth and beauty, right? You can see truth in the words and beauty in its meaning. So that's another way of looking at it. So I hope that helps. Okay, next one.
Thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Tai Chi. Brother Piya, what about Buddhist annual dinner where there are singing, dance performance?
Okay, I know there are people who do not approve of this, right? There was once, it was quite a nightmare for me. We were invited to this annual dinner and we wish we had not gone. It was really loud, louder than any, I don't know, I've not been to any nightclub, but just really loud, full blast. You can't hear each other talking. And when we asked one of the elders, they said, can you turn down the sound? And his reply was, I can't do anything about it. It was really sad. So I would advise, if you're running a temple, don't do this, please, because it's a Buddhist gathering. So our idea is to show this is what Buddhism is about. So singing and dancing, you can do it in a certain Buddhist way, where there's some kind of, Buddhist value in it, I suppose. There are other ways, we can celebrate, I suppose. Again, depends on the crowd. I mean, if you're dealing with young people, yeah, you can have some kind of allowance for them. But if you're making it public, something that a lot of people, a cross-section of society is going to come, my advice is make it something worthwhile that it really represents the Buddha Dharma and not something worldly. And some of these dancers are really worldly, I can tell you. And then you have monks sitting there. And this is when you will notice whether those monks are serious or not. The good ones will kind of look down, plowshare way. They will look down. They will not look at the dancing and so on. But if they do, they make a precept, So it's quite strange if we allow these things to happen. So do think about this, right? I know these are not easy answers to think about, but I would rather say this than I say, yeah, go ahead, then I'll be blamed for those things. Okay. Next question.
Thank you, Brother Piya. Okay. The next question from Other D. If a layperson aspires to develop deep meditative states, such as jhanas or insight into aggregates, how important is total celibacy?
Very good question. Okay, let me put it this way. If you want to practice jhana and you still want to have sex, the word is want, that means you have not got jhana yet. Because jhana is such a I'm speaking from monks whom I understand have attained jhana or understand what jhanas mean, and from my own study of the suttas. Jhana is level where you go into so deep into the pure mind, you have this mental joys of such a high level that you no more enjoy the pleasure of the body. You begin to see pleasure of the body as something, to put very simply, very crudely, disgusting. Right? Only on that level, okay? It's like, or in a sense, another gender will be childish, right? It's just like now, when we look at the kids playing with their toys, we say, oh, no, I don't want to play that, because I'm not a child anymore. But those kids already love it, but we say, no, we have gone beyond that, right? So it's something like that. You project the trajectory. When you attain jhana, you're no more caught with the body. That's what jhanas are about. That's why the non-returners have jhanas, and they are celibate, and they're on the way to become arahats. All right. So and arahats and the Buddha don't need sex because they've gone beyond that. So it'd be a contradiction because it'd be going back to the body if you talk about sex here. Okay. So if you're a layman, I would say you will naturally not enjoy sex anymore, and so you become celibate. There are stories about laymen like Atikara, who became celibate, who wouldn't even use money, by the way. But he was a potter, and he made pots, and then he would put outside his house with a sign that people can take what they want, and then they leave some food behind in exchange. And he still takes care of his buying powers. For that reason, he did not renounce. He was still a layman, but he was also a non-returner. Okay, so something you can think about. Huh? All right, let's go on.
Good. Thank you, Brother Piya. The next one from Daniel Wagner. Am I supposed to believe in psychic powers? I feel an unsurmountable skepticism on that. Isn't magical thinking clouding enlightenment?
Well, I think we need not force ourselves to believe in things that we have difficulty. I always like to say, use the word provisional. Don't talk about miracles, even simple Buddhist views. If you find they're difficult to accept, you don't have to accept them. It's no use accepting something you find difficult to understand and you find not necessary, or even you find it doesn't make sense. Right? So Buddhism allows that attitude. Understanding grows with wisdom, right? So you take them as stories, take them as, well, this is the way the ancient Indians talk. And we do see some things which we call miracles, but now modern science show in a different way. But you don't, so this is what's telling us you don't really need these things. If you're able to calm yourself, you're able to overcome anger, that is even greater than the so-called miracles, right? Especially these are things we do not experience ourselves. We only hear stories, so we can set them aside as provisional truth. There's no problem with that. I would say, yes, go ahead. Go according to your level of thinking, what you need, and the Buddha's teaching can be practiced without believing in miracles. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Piya. The next question is quite similar from Anu and Sandy. They are asking, could you please repeat the definition of avuso and what level of achievement will Kevaddha be when he addressed the Brahma avuso?
Oh, okay. Avuso simply means friend. It's like the Chinese 老朋友, old friend. But avuso means something like old, someone with age, ayu. It's a term commonly used among equals. In the Buddha's time, most of the monks would call each other avuso no matter what their age, because they are monks. So I wouldn't see avuso as a status. It's just a friendly mode of address, all right? Older monks, they are called Bhante. But even the word Bhante, by the way, it simply means like in English, in Malay, tuan, sir. See? It's a polite way of addressing someone, senior teacher, not necessarily just a monk. The monks kind of got used to this being called Bante because people respected them. But in the suttas, you find the servants calling their masters, employers, Bante, junior junior lay people calling senior lay people Bante. For your information, even today, some of my students still call me Bante because I was so used to it when I was a monk. It just means sir, so it doesn't, not necessarily venerable sir. I think for this reason, some monks decided not to use Bante, they use ayasma, which is specifically used for monks. It means venerable sir, but even ayasma doesn't really mean venerable sir. It simply means the one with age, the senior one. And we translate as venerable sir. Frankly, I think we should not worry too much about status. That is why you find people today here calling me by names. I insisted on that. I said, please don't use acharya for me. I know acharya is a nice word, means teacher. I don't mind if people calling acharya, I mean, those who are students, but my point is, I don't want people to come and listen to me because of the title, okay? And sometimes in Asia especially, we have this fear, we have this social distance. This is what sometimes all this kind of language, like in Thailand, royal language. It's really difficult to speak Thai with royalty because you've got to use special words. And the whole idea is to remind you of your low position, okay, social distance. So there's this eternal COVID, with this kind of language. So we address people with their status, and we have this fear, we call it respect, but it's more fear, and it's not healthy. So, I mean, it's fine you call me Acharya and you say, okay, it's because he's a teacher and we love the Dharma. But if someone calls someone Acharya and say, oh, he's like this, like that, and there is fear, and there is this, and worse than that, there's this idea that I can manipulate you by making you feel high. Wow, that is quite nasty. That's something I don't think we want. So for that reason, I say, please don't use titles for me. You call me Piya, and I know you're addressing me. That's fine, okay? And I know there are monks also, especially Western monks, whom other Western Buddhists call by name. I was shocked at first because I was trained in Thailand, and we don't do that with laymen. Don't call monks by name, but this is happening in the West because the Westerners say, why should I call a monk by big titles? It sounds strange. I mean, they're just people, and that's a good way of thinking. And I was concerned, and I asked one particular senior monk. I said, "It's just all right," and he says, "Oh, I'm fine with this. As long as I know they're calling me, addressing me, I'm okay with that." Anyway, we should know what those monks think before how we address them, by the way. Okay, I'm not telling you should go around addressing monks by name. I'm just saying in the West, you do see that kind of situation. So don't be too carried away by addressing the status. We want to rather appreciate the state that the monk is in, the state of a teacher, the state that he is calm, that he's a good meditator. We appreciate that. And as the Buddha says, the greatest worship you can give him, parama puja, is to practice, not honoring him with all kinds of, fantastic divine worship by the way the gods do it. So practice. When you practice the Dharma, that's the greatest respect you give to those you call teacher. Okay? All right, next question.
Okay, thank you, Piya. Next question from LC Yo. By the meaning of consciousness that all sees, is it the consciousness of life?
Consciousness here is how we interact with whatever's around us, how we make sense of things. So this is a really very deep teaching. When we talk about nirvana, the suttas often say nirvana consciousness finds no footing consciousness cannot arise, right? There is a problem with language here. When we say consciousness cannot arise, we are assuming there is this consciousness that seems to last forever. Again, that's not true. Okay? Consciousness, it's like fire. You know, there's no fire around us. But when you rub two sticks together, two dry sticks, or you what you call rub two stones, two kind of flint stones, and you get the sparks, and then fire starts. So the ancient Indians at one point believed that fire is all the time being stored in the wood or in the stone for that matter. And then when we knock it, we wake him up. So this is a very amazing idea. But of course, science will tell you these are all the way conditions work. So in Buddhism also we talk about conditions. So the condition around us now, outside nirvana, so to speak, the consciousness arises. When you're looking at me, you see me, so I appear in your sight, in your vision, right? So that you're conscious of me, right? So it goes like that. We talk more about consciousness in the other talk on the BMM, I think. Okay, so you can look up the details in our Telegram group. That there are 3 programs that you choose the one that talks about the 5 aggregates. So there'll be the syllabus are all there, and we'll be talking about consciousness in one of the lessons. Okay. All right, let's go on.
Thank you, Piya. The next question from Hai Ping. Hai Ing, sorry.
Ing, yes.
Is it possible to apply spiritual powers to help us lead a good life according to the teachings of the Buddha?
Well, if you have spiritual powers, why not use it? You know. But if you're a layman, apparently it's not so bad if you're a monk. But so far, I've not seen any lay people doing that or doing it in the right way. So then you come back, like learn sighting bird. It's better not to do it because if you do it as a normal person, with your kindness and your clarity of mind and your vision, using the suttas is definitely much better. Right? If you know certain skills, that might be regarded as a kind of miraculous thing. I mean, you have that certain ability. Maybe when you talk to people, they listen to you. You have that good karma where people like you just to listen to you. Well, that's a kind of miracle. You can use it in that way to. Of course, you got to study the suttas first. You have to be very careful here, not to professionalize this teachership, teaching the Dharma. It doesn't mean just because you're good looking, charismatic people come to you, that means you already know Buddhism and you can talk whatever you like and define Buddhism. That's wrong. That's bad karma, by the way. It means you need to study Buddhism very carefully, so that when you have to be extra careful because people are more likely to believe you than to believe me. See? So they're going to fall in love with you. You're going to, everything you say, you're going to accept it. So you have to be very careful that what you say is right, where you can get this in the suttas and so on, things like that. So yes, that is, as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. So be very careful. The way of power is not very safe also. All right. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Piya. The last question from the chat box from Lim Kim Heng. When a person attains Nibbana, will his chitta still exist after his pari-nibbana?
Wow, that's a tough one. I'm not enlightened. So I have to answer from the suttas. There are 2 kinds of awakening. Okay, one is called with remains, the other is without remains. So the upadisesa nibbana, the one with remains, that means the 5 aggregates are still there, but they are not clinging aggregates. So the chittas are still there, of course, okay? Because you need chittas to communicate, to know what's going on. But once the Buddha passes away, once an Arhat passes away, the chittas do not arise anymore. The chittas are, of course, consciousness. So that they find normal footing, they do not arise anymore. Okay? So the 2 kinds of nibbana apply here. So I hope that answers your question. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Piya Tan. Thank you, Isim. I think we have answered all the questions.
This is our opening of 2021 on an auspicious note, starting keeping the precepts, doing some meditation, and studying this very humorous sutta, which reminds us of the importance of practice. And don't worry too much about miracles and things we don't understand, which is outside of our power. The greatest miracle is we can change ourselves from being angry to not angry, from being ignorant and superstitious to being wise and clear in our minds about things. With that in mind, remembering all the good things we've done today, let us send these happy thoughts. May we be well and happy. May we have good health so that we are able to study Buddhism in a full and committed way. And also may our loved ones be well and happy, our friends and relatives be well and happy. And those people who have difficulty with or who have difficulty with us too, may they be well and happy and see us in a friendly way, and we too look at them with wisdom and understanding and learn from each other to be happy. So send your kind thoughts to people who matter to you, people who are sick maybe, people who are old and lonely. Send your kind thoughts to them and follow up with your actions of bringing happiness and friendliness to them. And now we close with the closing salutations. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Bow down. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Bow down. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Bow down. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And congratulations to everyone, this new team. You have done well. We have finished today, right? So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brother Piya, there's a brother Hosun and Sister Linda from Sydney. Can you see them? They were.
Where are they? Oh, hello. I get to know.
You know, many years they were met.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm happy to see you all. Wonderful to back in cyberspace.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are with us. Sydney now is almost midnight, I think.
Yes. Oh, much later, I think.
Midnight.
Yes. So sleep longer tomorrow. Okay. Wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone for participating. We have a very good amount of participants for the very first class of 2021. Sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.
See you all in your next session.